crystal lattices and unit cells. We know that the main characteristics of crystalline solids is a regular and repeating pattern of constituent particles. When we replace these particles, that is, those red and blue balls in the crystalline solid placed towards left hand side with points, such an arrangement is known as crystal lattice. Thus, a crystal lattice is defined as a regular three-dimensional arrangement of points in space. There are 14 possible three-dimensional lattices known to us. These lattices are named after the French mathematician who discovered it. Thus, they are known as Brévier's lattice. The following are the characteristics of a crystal lattice. Each point in a lattice is called lattice point or lattice site. Each point in a crystal lattice represents one constituent particle, which may be an atom, a molecule, or an ion. Lattice points are joined together by straight lines to bring out the geometry of the lattice. If you observe this crystal lattice, you can notice a small group of crystal points repeats itself again and again to form an entire crystal lattice. This small group of lattice points is known as unit cell. Thus, the unit cell is the smallest portion of a crystal lattice which, when repeated in different directions, generates the entire lattice. A unit cell is characterized by three edges A, B and C represented along X, Y and Z axis of a 3D entity. These edges may or may not be mutually perpendicular. When these edges join, they form certain angles. They are represented as alpha, beta and gamma. The angle between the edges B and C is alpha, and the angle between the edges A and C is beta, and the angle between the edges A and B is gamma. Thus, a unit cell is characterized by 6 parameters, namely A, B, C, alpha, beta and gamma. Unit cells can be broadly divided into two categories, namely primitive unit cells and centered unit cells. In primitive unit cells, constant particles are present only on the corner positions of a unit cell. Centered unit cells contains one or more constant particles present at positions other than corners in addition to those at corners. Centered unit cells are of three types, namely body-centered unit cells, face-centered unit cells and end-centered unit cells. In body-centered unit cells, constant particles are present at its body center besides the one that are there at its corners. In face-centered unit cells, one constant particle is present at the center of each face besides the one that are there at its corners. In end-centered unit cell, one constant particle is present at the center of any two opposite faces besides the ones present at its corners.